Have you ever had one of those moments where you wished you could just hit rewind? Not necessarily because you knew something bad was going to happen, but because what happened was so completely unpredictable that afterward you were left sitting there thinking, wow, how did I even get here? Well, let me start from the beginning. Lillian called me because she and Maya wanted to go out and hang out for a little while. And honestly, I thought it might be a really good idea. I hadn't had an opportunity to hang out with my friends in quite some time, outside of Lillian, of course. So the four of us decided we were going to go out to a club. Now, typically my evenings had started falling into a completely different routine. Most nights I would be somewhere relaxing in my own little vibe, talking to Michael on the phone until I eventually fell asleep. And of course he wouldn't hang up. It had almost become our thing. We would see each other briefly whenever we could. Maybe I would stop by his job and we'd squeeze in lunch. Sometimes we'd find 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Just little creative ways of slipping ourselves into each other's schedules. But we hadn't really had a chance to sit down and spend a lot of uninterrupted time together. The bulk of our time had become those late night phone calls. We'd talk about our days, we'd laugh, we'd have those interesting conversations that somehow turned into deeper conversations. Or should I say, he tried to have deep conversations because, if I'm being completely honest, there were certain parts of those conversations that I had become very skilled at avoiding. And I mean completely avoiding. If Michael got a little too close to something I wasn't ready to discuss, I could somehow find a way to skirt around it altogether. But anyway, here it was, a beautiful night, and I was on the phone with Michael when Lillian and Maya called. Hold on for a second, I told him. I clicked over, and sure enough, it was them. They wanted to get together, go somewhere, have a couple of drinks, listen to some music, and just have a good time. And when my friends and I get together, that's usually exactly what happens. We drink, we laugh, we dance, we get completely lost in the music. And sometimes we go places where we run into other people we know. It could be another group of friends, old acquaintances. Sometimes you might even unexpectedly bump into an ex. But nobody really thinks anything of it. The whole point is simply to decompress, let your hair down, and have a really, really good time. But before I get into what happened at the club, I need to explain how we even got there. When I clicked back over to Michael, he immediately asked, "Everything cool?" "Yeah," I said. "Lillian called. Her and Maya want to go hang out tonight, and I was kind of considering going with them." To my surprise, Michael didn't seem bothered at all. "Okay," he said. "If you want to go, I don't think that's a bad thing. We're on the phone all the time. I completely understand if you want to hang out with your friends and switch things up a little bit." Of course, I had to ask. He insisted that he didn't mind. In fact, he told me one of his friends had called him earlier. His friend had recently started bartending at a new spot and had invited Michael to come by and check the place out. Michael had declined. Apparently, he already had plans. Me. And I have to admit, I thought that was kind of sweet. He had turned down going out with his friend just so he could stay on the phone with me. But now it seemed like everything had worked itself out perfectly. "Well, listen, Sunny," Michael told me, "maybe you should. I don't want it to seem like I'm taking up all of your time." Then he paused. "Even though I have absolutely no problem taking up all your time." I laughed. "But seriously," he continued, I want you to have some space to do other things you probably don't ordinarily have time for." I hesitated before finally saying, "Okay," because deep down I really did want to go. I loved spending time talking to Michael, but I also hadn't hung out with my friends in a while. So naturally, I turned the conversation back around on him. "Well, why don't you call your friend back?" Michael hesitated. "I'm serious," I told him. "Call him back. Tell him you'll come by the club. Go hang out with your friend for a while." "I don't know," he said it. "I'll think about it. I might pass by and talk to him for a little bit." He still didn't sound completely convinced, so I left it alone. "Well, if you decide to go, I think it would be good. Either way, maybe tonight can just be a different kind of night for both of us." Michael got quiet, just for a moment. But with Michael, quiet never seemed to stay quiet for very long. "Sunny," and there it was, the beginning of another conversation. "I just hope if you go out, you're going to be safe." "I will. And maybe when you get home, you could shoot me a text or call me. Just let me know you made it home, okay?" Then, almost immediately, he started backtracking. "I mean, only if you're comfortable with that." If you're not, I completely understand. I don't want it to seem like I'm crowding you or being too much. I didn't mind at all. I was just going out with my friends, sending Michael a simple text saying, yeah, I made it home okay, wasn't asking too much, so we agreed I'd go out with my friends. Maybe Michael would go visit his friend, and when I got home, I let him know I was safe. Simple enough. At least, that's what I thought. And with that, we hung up the phone. There I was, getting dressed, slipping into a black dress, checking my makeup in the mirror, and getting ready for what I thought was going to be a fun girls' night out at the club. Nothing complicated, nothing serious, just a night out with my friends. When I arrived, we were all sitting around the table having a really good time. Whenever we got together, it was almost always fun. We would dance, act a little silly, have a couple of drinks, and just enjoy ourselves. It was literally a whole vibe. The music was pumping, the drinks were good, and honestly we were having fun. A part of me was especially happy because Maya and Lillian had finally made up after their argument. There wasn't any tension between them anymore, so for the most part we were just dancing, laughing, and enjoying ourselves. Not too long after we got there, a couple of guys came over. Nothing unusual. Everybody started dancing, and the whole group was just having a good time. At first, I didn't immediately realize who one of the guys was, but when I finally turned around and looked at him, I recognized him. Wait, Rodney? Rodney was someone I had dated a long time ago. Hey, Rodney! And just like that, we started dancing. From what I remembered about Rodney, he hadn't changed much. He was still doing that whole whispering in my ear thing that he had always done. And honestly, it was fun. There wasn't anything major behind the interaction. I wasn't standing there secretly thinking about getting back together with Rodney. I wasn't wondering if we were going to hook up later that night. None of that was running through my mind. The entire evening, as far as I was concerned, was about hanging out with my friends and having a good time. Eventually, the crowd started shifting around. People moved in different directions, and somehow Rodney and I continued dancing together. Again, we were just having fun. Rodney was an old ex from a long time ago. There was nothing new or mysterious about him, but as he stood there talking to me, doing the same little things that Rodney had always done, I couldn't help but reminisce just a little. I remembered how we used to hang out, how we used to laugh, how we could just have fun together. So maybe there was a tiny bit of nostalgia in the moment, but more than anything, what felt good was that I wasn't thinking about work. I wasn't thinking about what needed to be done tomorrow. I wasn't thinking about deadlines, responsibilities, or any of the usual stressors that constantly seem to occupy space in my mind. For once, all that was gone. I was just there, in the moment. If anything, Rodney was simply the catalyst that allowed me to relax enough to get into this completely chill space. But somewhere in the middle of that chill moment, something changed. I couldn't explain it. I just suddenly had this feeling that something was wrong, almost like I was being watched. And because I knew how my anxiety could sometimes work, I immediately started talking myself down. Sunny, don't do this. Don't let your mind travel. Don't turn a perfectly good night into something it isn't. I didn't want to spiral into paranoia, wondering if something was going to happen when absolutely nothing was happening. Usually I could talk myself down. I could recognize the feeling, breathe through it, and eventually convince myself that everything was okay. And normally that was enough, because normally there wasn't actually anything wrong. This time there was. I opened my eyes and I saw Michael. He was standing there, and the look on his face sent a chill from the back of my neck all the way down to my ankles. I can't even fully describe that feeling. It was almost like something beneath me had cracked open, because Michael wasn't looking at me the way he normally did. There was no softness, no warmth, no caring look, no affection. He looked straight through me, and somehow, without saying a single word, his expression made me feel like I had shattered something, like I had broken an image he had of me, like somehow in his mind I had betrayed him on a level he had never expected from me. And I froze. I mean, literally froze. There weren't a million thoughts racing through my head. There were no thoughts, nothing. My brain didn't tell me, Sunny, go after him. It didn't tell me, explain what he's seeing. It didn't even tell me, wait, what just happened? There was nothing. Michael walked directly past me, and I kept walking. And I stood there. My feet didn't move. My mind wasn't working. I couldn't even put words together. Meanwhile, Rodney had absolutely no idea what was happening. He was still talking, still trying to dance, until eventually I think he realized he was basically dancing by himself because I was standing there like a statue, frozen. It felt like someone had suddenly taken away my ability to move, speak, think, or react, and Michael just kept walking. That was the part that hurt the most because I knew he saw me. There was absolutely no question in my mind that Michael had seen me, but he didn't acknowledge me. He didn't stop. He didn't ask me a question. He didn't even look back. He just walked past me. And somewhere inside that strange, frozen state I was in, there was one feeling I can remember. My heart sank. It literally felt like my heart dropped inside of my chest, because out of everything Michael could have done in that moment, yell, question me, confront me, even look at me with anger, somehow him walking past me as though I wasn't even there felt worse than all of it. Immediately, for some reason, everything came back. My thoughts, the feeling in my hands, I could actually feel my heart beating again. It was like I was finally becoming unstuck from that zombie-like state I had been standing in. And the second that happened, I started walking. I didn't tell anybody I was leaving. I didn't look for Lillian. I didn't find Maya. I didn't find any of my other friends. I just started walking out of the club. And in that moment, I wasn't even sure what I was walking or maybe running away from. It felt like somehow in one night I had managed to flip my entire world upside down. I kept walking faster and faster, trying to get to my car because all I wanted to do, leave. And somewhere between the club and my car, a voice inside my head finally started working again. Think, Sunny, think, how do you fix this? What are you supposed to say right now? What are you supposed to do? And that's what was so strange. Ordinarily, I have 101 thoughts running through my head at any given moment. But suddenly, when I actually needed those thoughts, when I needed my ability to process something quickly, there was nothing. I couldn't comprehend how to fix it. I couldn't understand what I should do next. There was fear, hurt, shock, panic. So many emotions hit me at the exact same time that I couldn't separate one from another. And then came the biggest question. What do I even say to him? Do I say, yeah, Michael, I told you I was going out with my friends, but then you walked in and saw me grinding and dancing with another man? Because in my mind, it wasn't what it looked like. But how was I supposed to explain that? Especially when Michael never even came over to speak to me. That was the part I couldn't get out of my head. It was almost like the moment he saw me, an entire story formed in his mind. And somehow that moment became the beginning and the ending of that story. He saw me. He decided what it meant. And when he walked away, the end. Meanwhile, I was still standing there without the slightest idea of how to address any of it. I froze, I panicked, and then I left. So now I'm practically speed walking toward my car when my phone starts going off. Lillian, message after message, then Maya, then another friend. My phone just kept going off. Okay. I couldn't deal with all of it. I didn't have the mental capacity to answer everybody, so I finally sent Lillian one quick text. Hey, I left early. I'm just going to go home. My head hurts really bad and I want to get some rest. Everything is fine. Everything was absolutely not fine. But that's what I told her. And then I kept walking. I didn't respond to anyone else. I didn't turn around. I got to my car, sat down, and with whatever small amount of brain power I had left, somehow managed to drive myself home. The second I walked through my door, I knew what I had to do. Call Michael. I would explain everything. I'd tell him what happened. I'd explain that whatever he thought he had seen wasn't what he thought it was. And hopefully, me suddenly leaving the club wouldn't make everything look even worse. Because now another thought hit me. Oh my God, Michael had never seen me like that before. Even during those little moments when we managed to see each other for 5 or 10 minutes, he had never seen me dressed that way. Even on our first official date, he hadn't really seen that side of me. He'd never seen me completely dressed up. He'd barely even seen me in heels. The Sunni he knew was laid back, calm, chill, casual, and suddenly he had walked into a club and seen this completely different version of me, dressed up in heels, dancing with another man. And now my mind really started going, what if he's thinking she didn't just betray me? What if he's wondering who the hell I actually am? What if he's thinking I've been talking to this woman every night, falling asleep on the phone with her, getting to know this calm, laid-back version of her. And now I walk into a club and see somebody I barely recognize. So who is she really? Is she that person, or is she this person? And that's when the tornado started. At first, my thoughts were moving slowly, but they were waking up one by one. And the more awake my brain became, the faster that tornado started spinning. My hand was actually shaking when I picked up my phone, but I called him anyway. No answer. I called again. Nothing. Again. No response. So I texted him, Michael, I think we should have a conversation. Nothing. I sent another, Michael, it's not what you think it is. Still nothing. Then another, I want to explain. I just want you to listen. No response. So I went back to calling. Call. No answer. Voicemail. No response. Another call. Nothing. Another voicemail. Nothing. It was almost like Michael had been completely wiped off the face of the earth. There was no anger, no argument, no questions, no accusations, no leave me alone. No, I don't want to talk to you. There was just nothing. And somehow that silence was terrifying because it felt like that was it. He was gone, completely gone, like the man I had been talking to every night, the man who had become part of my everyday routine had suddenly disappeared. All because of one moment, one night, one thing he saw. And I'm sitting there with my phone in my hand, staring at the screen, asking myself the only question my mind could seem to form. How in the hell did I manage in one night to take my entire world and flip it completely on its head? How did I even get here? So here I am, my mind going in 1,000 different circles. How do I fix this? How do I put the story together? How do I explain to Michael that sometimes I dress up, sometimes I wear clothes that aren't necessarily a sweater and jeans. Sometimes I wear heels, I drink wine, and sometimes I drink a lot of wine. The few times Michael had seen me drinking, he'd only seen me taking little sips of wine during those quiet moments we shared. But when I go out with my friends, sometimes I drink a lot more than that. I like to dance. I like loud, wild music. Sometimes I like to have those moments where I just completely let loose. I like to have fun. And sitting there thinking about all of this, I could actually feel my own heart breaking. I was extremely sad because another question started creeping into my mind. Would he even care? Even if I managed to explain everything he saw, would Michael care enough to understand? Would he be willing to accept that side of me? Because suddenly I realized something. Michael had only seen one side of me. He knew the calm version, the laid-back version, the woman in the sweater and jeans, the woman who took little sips of wine, the woman who would talk to him for hours until she eventually fell asleep on the phone. But he didn't know the other side of me. He didn't know the woman who sometimes puts on a dress and heels. The woman who goes out with her girlfriends, drinks too much wine, dances to wild music, gets a little loud, laughs, and just lets herself go. And now, on top of trying to convince him that what he saw wasn't what he thought it was, there was another fear sitting heavily on my heart. What if he simply didn't like that side of me? What if he saw her and thought she wasn't a good person? What if the version of me he had been getting to know was the version he wanted, and the woman he saw tonight was someone he couldn't accept? And honestly, the saddest part of all of this is that this is probably the first time in my life that I can truly say I have a broken heart. I've never felt this way about anybody. And yet, here is this man that I have all of these feelings for. And I can't even put the words together to explain what happened. I can't explain that seeing me dancing with another man wasn't what he thought it was. But somehow, there's something even more complicated than that, because the woman Michael saw dancing tonight and was a woman he had never seen before. She existed. She had always existed. She was me. But to Michael, until tonight, she practically didn't exist at all. And now I'm sitting here trying to process one of the craziest realizations of this entire night. I'm not only afraid that Michael misunderstood what he saw, I'm afraid that for the first time, he saw another side of who I am. And I'm terrified that he may not like her.